What up, though? You know how we do it this time. One of the all-time great groups, Run DMC. Hard times, spreading just like the flu. Watch out, homeboy. Don't let it catch you. Put prices go up. Don't let your pocket go down. It's that time right now. It's crazy out here in the field, fam. How you and the kids doing and the wifey?
Oh, man. We're running a school over here. You know what I mean? We're running a school, running a restaurant, running a hotel. I'm folding all the clothes, doing all the dishes, putting all the dishes away. I'm getting exposed right now. I'm really getting exposed. I don't know where some of the knives go, some of this stuff. You know, I'm really getting exposed to some of the things I should be doing better at in my regular life around the house.
So can we, as a society, start giving the teachers their flowers while they're here? You know I'm big on that, Jacoby.
Oh, teachers, and sanitation workers, everyone that's an essential member. Say, what businesses are open right now? Essential businesses, right? Like, and we're really learning what we really need. We really need the grocery store workers. We really need those people at Trader Joe's in those silly shirts. We really need the people at the pharmacies giving those, the medicines that people need. We really need the liquor stores. We really need the dispensaries. We really need the hospitals, obviously, and the fire department and the police department. Like, everyone that works one of those places, and obviously I'm missing a couple, we need you. And you know what's the best thing about teachers, Jay? A lot of teachers, like the teachers of my kids, they're not taking the time off. They're joining in on Zoom meetings. They're educating my kids, and we're uploading files. Like, the teachers aren't just like, early summer this year. Teachers are getting it in. They're getting it in and teaching my kid remotely from his home and their home.
And anybody that followed this program, we literally started this show around the same time that I founded JRLA. And I've said this a million times, how the world should stop itself on its axis and pay teachers double right now.
Right now.
Right now. I don't care what they make. Like, as somebody that grew up in sports and entertainment right now, working for the worldwide leader, it was always backwards to me that we value entertainment more than we value education.
Yeah.
Look no further than the salaries of athletes or entertainers versus teachers. Like, every teacher should at least make $100,000, especially if they're functionable, especially if they're there to continue to uplift the students on a daily basis. I know there may be some exceptions to the rule, but I'm just talking about the profession itself. We should have young people wanting to be teachers because, A, they want to enlighten and give enrichment to other young people, but also because they can make enough money to feed their families. And so, again, now there are good or bad people at their jobs and all of that. But I'm just talking about as a baseline, they should be making $100,000 as a baseline. Easy.
Of course.
And so during times like this, when I just saw, I think it was Kim Kardashian doing a post. She was like, oh my God, like, we're really homeschooling. Like, this is really something. And I want to say this to all of the rich people out there. Imagine the families that don't have internet service.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine the families that don't have computers or cable.
Don't.
So it's an entire different dynamic. So it kind of frustrates me when I keep hearing regurgitated that all young people are learning equally. No, they not. No, they not. It depends on your zip code. And go hug your parents right now, because that essential thing that David Jacoby just mentioned, you know what's essential for young people out there? Their parents and guardians right now.
Oh, yeah.
If you don't have a job, if you don't have a career, you still school age, oh, man, you better go hug your parents. You got a home to go. Dog, I'm paying tuition for my daughter. I'm paying for an apartment right now. My daughter goes to Georgia. I'm paying apartment rent right now, my nephew goes to Syracuse. They not like, oh, they ain't here, school closed, so you don't have to pay it.
No.
Right?
I'm sure they wrote you a long email being like, listen, this time's so hard. This is an unprecedented thing for our economy, and we're doing our best to make sure that everybody gets the education they deserve during this, and we'll revolve and adjust. And, oh, by the way, we pay us our money. You know what I mean? I'm sure there's like 5 paragraphs before they're like, oh, by the way, we still need our money, as if school was in session.
For real, dog. So, like, we're just here to entertain and give you guys put a smile on your face, to give you some hope. So check us out every day at 3:30 right here. 4 p.m. we're going to take over all ESPN sites. And tell a friend to tell a friend. We get judged by how many people watch. We get judged by how many times you like our videos and follow us and all of that good stuff. But more importantly, we're here to provide quality content with my brother David Jacoby.
You can find us on the ESPN app, and make sure you follow Jalen Jacoby on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter, D Jacoby. Follow Jalen Rose on Twitter, because that's where you'll be able to find us every day at 4 o'clock. And on YouTube, you can always catch the show if you miss it live. It'll be on YouTube on the ESPN YouTube channel every single.
And also, Jacoby, shout to my brother Freddie Gibbs. Like I said, because that's where I saw this first. The people that are going to get, and by the way, like, our commander in tweets, he's just laughable. He get up there every day and like, I'm doing such a great job. Like, all I hear is I'm doing a great job. But and that's not political. Like, I don't care about the affiliation. Like, for real. Like, I don't care who you vote for. Just vote. I'm just a taxpaying citizen, and I'm saying my 2 cents about what I see during a pandemic. And what I know is if you make $75,000 or less, that makes you eligible for the stimulus funds that are about $1,500 or so, $1,200, $1,500 per family.
About $1,200, yeah.
And $500 for kids. And what Gangsta Gibbs said, what he posted, and I agree with it, is if you want to help the people that's making $75,000 or less, put 100 points on their credit score. That'll change the game. Put 100 points on their credit score. So I know you hate when I get on my soapbox. What else you got going, man? Because you know I'm running for governor of Detroit sooner or later.
I can't wait until you're elected governor of Detroit so I can finally replace you as my co-host. I can't wait.
So you don't have to worry about your job security every day.
I'll switch this logo up real quick. You know what? I'll run your campaign. I'll run your campaign for governor of Michigan. I will run that campaign for you. I'll spend all my money. I'll take out loans to try to get you nominated as governor of Michigan, because you can't do this job and be governor of Michigan at the same time. All right? Yeah. We'll still be friends. You know what I mean? I'll just have a different show. Can't wait. I'll vote for you 3 times in Michigan. Not even live there. I'll get an apartment in Detroit. I'll get 4 apartments in Detroit and just get some fake IDs just so I can vote for you.
Governor of Michigan, dog, or mayor of Detroit, worst case. But I got to tell you something else to people in power that have a lot of privilege. You said $1,200, right?
Yeah, something like that.
For anybody that's ever purchased something or ever paid rent or insurance every month or bought food and gas, $1,200, that's a drop in the bucket.
Yeah.
That's a drop in the bucket. That's not a game changer for the families across the nation. That is not a game changer. Like, of course you want the bread, but like, by the time you get the bread, you ain't paid rent for 2 or 3 months.
I think like no one really knows how this is going to play out. But at some point, people are most focused on like, all right, when can I get back outside? When can I go play hoops in the park? When can I kind of go to a bar or restaurant? When can I live my normal life, go to the office? When can we normalize in that sense? But things are not going to be normal for quite some time with the economy the way it is. And on a more lighter note, like, I'm watching TV that was filmed before this pandemic hit, and everything I see, I'm just like, oh, there's germs on there. Like, oh, I can't believe you're going to eat from the same plate they ate from. Like, oh, you let your dog do that? Oh, look at you. Look at them giving each other hugs and kisses on the cheek. Like, I don't even think I'm going to give everybody a handshake for like 3 years. Like, I don't think so.
We learning to use our boxes and elbows now.
Like
our boxes and elbows. Like
I was the type of dude.
Kobe.
I was the type of dude. Like if you drink a beer I never heard of before, like I'll take a sip of your beer if I never heard of your beer. Whatever. Like, oh, I got a craft IPA, double hoppy from Michigan or whatever. I'm like, oh, I'll take a sip of that. Let me try that. Oh, that's nice. I would do that real quick. I was always the type, just like, oh, whatever. Like, what, am I going to die because I share the same fork? I want to try some of your pie. You got some nice looking, Boston cream pie over there. Let me give it a shot. But no, not anymore. Not anymore. I'm much more germ conscious now.
I think Jamie Foxx, I saw him post a line of people doing a TikTok video. And, of course, they look way more like you than they look like me. And
shout out to all the white people on TikTok. Shout out to yeah.
And they were literally passing the same lollipop, putting it in each person's mouth.
Oh,
it was like 8 of them. Yes.
Yeah, my kids do that type of stuff all the time. For real.
Well, they're brothers and sisters. That's kind of different.
Do you think they need to make a separate app of TikTok for white people? Because what we're doing is completely different. You know what I mean? Like, it shouldn't even be the same app. Like,
I already got a name for it.
TikTok or something.
I already got a name for it. They need to get one for black people called Lean With It, Rock With It. That should be the name of it.
A little too long. A little too long.
Not a TikTok.
TikTok got a whole generation of people dancing without moving their feet, though. Have you noticed that? Because the way that the camera's shot, like, you don't see the people's feet, so they don't do any footwork. So they're sitting just like, they look like they're like operating planes. You know what I mean? It's like,
and that's just the opposite for us. I mean, when we move.
Yeah. But don't touch your face, Jay. What you doing, dog? Just follow the guidelines.
Yeah, you're right. My bad.
You just gave yourself the Ronnie Rome right there. We got it right on wax.
Hey, man, I was just trying to lay down that magic, that Clyde Frazier type goatee.
So, dog, you've been dodging this question the last couple of days when we do this, and I want the real answer. What is the deal with you and Andy Authentic? Like, when's he coming to the crib? What has the conversations been like? Show me your phone. I know your phone's probably doing the IG Live. I just touched my face. Just tell me when you're going to get.
This is going to be controversial, and you're not going to like it.
Your haircut.
This is controversial. I'm going to get a cut when I do get up again.
Sell out. You're sell out. You're sell out. I know you love me, and I know you love our audience more than you love Mike Reberg and the Get Up audience. But you always dress up for them like you're trying to impress like a date's parents. You know what I mean? And like we're just like the homeboys that you hang with. Like we're just hanging out in the basement playing video games. That's what you dress like on this show.
Well, that's my day job. This is my hustle. Like I go to work with Greeny. Me and you are trying to figure ways to get strip clubs back open as essentials.
No, I'm not. That's a terrible idea. I'm not trying to do that. You're trying to do that. Don't put that evil on me. I almost retweeted that, and I was like, what am I doing? I can't support this. I can't support this.
That's why you was like, no.
Oh, that's what I did do that. Yeah.
Dog, that is essential. Like, I don't understand. I'm not even going to get into that debate with you right now. But it is essential. It's essential.
It's not. It's
essential.
Not even close. I always love the Dan Le Batard show, and they put up a poll. They're like, are you drinking more during the quarantine? Yes. Answer's yes. Me and my wife looked at each other after the weekend.
Oh, you know what else? Right. As you talked about not sharing so many different things, how about the people that grew up sharing medicinal marijuana in blunts?
Oh, passing somebody something? That ain't happening anymore.
How about that?
That ain't happening anymore. Ciphers are dead. Ciphers are dead forever. It's personals only. Pre-roll personals only in 2020. That's what happened. We're going to look back, because it is the beginning of a new decade too, and like life is going to change. We're going to look back and be like, remember before 2020, we used to get in the subway without masks on? And here's another thing's going to happen. Remember I said this. Remember you heard this first. You think Gucci ain't coming out with the Gucci pattern mask? You think Chanel's not going to have the double C's? Like, you think Nike's not going to have the big swoosh? You think there's not going to be everyone's drip is going to have some sort of mask on? I'm not going to know what anybody looks like. Thank God I'm married, because if you're a single now, you start flirting with some girl, she takes the mask off, and you're like, oh, whoa, whoa, whoa.
I didn't know you only had 2 teeth.
Yeah.
Like, whoa. But the one thing that stinks about this entire pandemic, and by the way, like, I understand the severity of it, but I was outside walking, and I saw another person who just happened to be a white woman walking on the same side of the street as me. And I actually crossed the street so I wouldn't encounter her.
Ooh.
And it gave me a flashback to what my people needed to do in the United States of America basically before 1970. I was just thinking about that. I was like, you know what? Forget that $1,200. We want reparations. 40 acres and a mule. Imagine if we had 40 acres. That's a lot.
Jalen?
You know Joy would have got hers. You get a chance to kick it on there.
Oh, yeah, she would give me a corner. She'd be like, these 39.5 are mine. I guys deserve these. You have your little 0.5 over there. Check it, it's now 3:59.
Shout out Reg the Ledge.
Big shout out Reg the Ledge. Join us. It is 3:59, about to be 4 o'clock, so make sure you jump over to Twitter. Go to twitter.com/Jalen Jacoby. You'll find us right there going live with the show. Follow Jalen Jacoby on IG and on Twitter to make sure you get the latest. We do a show every single day. We'll be on Twitter right now. Why is that, Jalen Rose?
And I know you're going to see a lot of multimedia members doing their shows from home. Still the coldest background in the game. Look at Q. We're not done. We're not done. We're not done.
And now, Jalen and Jacoby on ESPN Radio.
He is Jalen Anthony Rose.
What up, though?
I'm David Jacoby.
And on the cool check-in.
Together, we are Jalen and Jacoby. What do?
We give the people what they want.
We always say we give the people what they want at the top of every show, and that is exactly what we try to do. And one of the ways we're going to give the people what they want is take questions from you on Instagram and Twitter on the Jalen and Jacoby accounts. Make sure you follow those. And Jalen Rose, with his own money from his own pocket, got some hoodies made. He's going to give away hoodies to his favorite answers to those questions. So make sure you look out for that on Twitter and on Instagram. And Jalen, we've been doing this for 9 years. And one thing you're always in favor of is athletes getting all their money. Whether it's a funky contract negotiation or a buyout or some sort of restructuring of a contract, you always want athletes to get all their money. But however, there is something in the CBA that is basically allows the NBA and the teams not to pay the players approximately 1% per game missed in event of something like this, the pandemic that we are now dealing with. So what they're discussing right now is a scenario in which NBA players get paid approximately 25% of what was owed to them from their salary this season. Jalen, you know Adam Silver watches this show every single day. And then he listens to the podcast at night. And if he called your phone and said, Jalen, obviously we're not getting the revenue for these games that we're missing, so how do we deal with the players who want all the money even for the games that they're missing?
I think I'd be a great Supreme Court judge because I'm very knowledgeable and I'm fair. And in a few situations, as you acknowledged that I want to make sure athletes get top dollar, a guy like Tom Brady can take less money when his wife Giselle makes more money than he does. I understand those kind of situations. That's why ultimately that became the secret weapon to them building out their team and getting 6 championship rings. In this case, as I look at big companies and I look at profitable businesses and I understand that there's a $2 trillion bailout that's happening right now for a lot of big corporations, I want to be a realist here. And for me,
if you are able to provide your job services and it's a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate like the NBA, for example, then I understand you wanting to get all of your bread. But if there's 20 games still to be played and you're not going to play those basketball games, I understand in reverse the NBA trying to recoup some of that bread. It's millionaire versus billionaire type of problems when there are people out here getting fired, laid off, businesses being shut down, people can't pay their light bill, people weren't able to pay their rent on the first of the month, and now all of a sudden those opportunities to get the payments are deferred. NBA players usually don't have to worry about those situations. I told you won't see NBA players going broke again. The information, the money is just too staggering. So based on that, I understand the league's stance, and I don't think the players will have a huge problem with it.
So there are some instances that I think get pretty interesting. And again, it is Clutch Sports and Rich Paul who are in the middle of it. The way that they structured their deal, which at the time didn't seem like it was going to be a significant sort of point in the contract, but the way that the Clutch Sports deals are structured is they get 90% of their salary on April Fool's Day, which is today. So now we've got some players, some very prominent players, as you know, rep by Clutch, that have 90% of their salary in their pocket. However, the NBA is working on a deal where only 75% of the salary gets paid out by the teams. So imagine you're one of those players, Jalen Rose, that has 90% of their salary, but then you get a call from your agent and the league saying, you got to pay us back. Now you got to write us a check for the other 15%. How would you handle that?
Shout out to super agent, my brother Rich Paul. Got a chance to run into him in L.A. at the Staples Center recently before the NBA shut down at the Laker and Clipper game. Very genius for this clause to be in those 9 players' contracts. And assuming that one of those 9 people just so happened to be LeBron James, who's hoping to be the first billion-dollar athlete, I guess, of his generation, I want to shout Rich Paul for another thing. You remember where the Morris twins started playing basketball during this season and then where they ended up?
Yep.
Please tell me the teams they started playing for and then the teams, my brothers, my guys, the Morris twins, we need to get them on the show. Tell me what teams they started playing on and then where they ended up.
I'm thinking Knicks and Pistons and then LA and LA.
How about that? They both was playing on lottery squads and Rich Paul got them to LA and they can ride to the game together and play against one another on the top 2 teams in the Western Conference. This man is doing deals, Rich Paul.
And if you're LeBron, if you're one of these players, you have to pay back the 15%. You just eat it and write that check, right?
Yes, you will. You will. You're going to see a couple of IG posts because the money's different when you look at it and then you lose it. It's almost the difference between always paying cash versus using a credit card. Like when you see it and it's in your hand, you value it a lot more. You're a lot tighter with it.
One of my favorite, because Jalen, you give me a lot of OG advice. You know what I mean? You really do. And I know you want a minute, but I do the same for you. And one thing that you did for me is I'm going to air some dirty laundry. I'd be having to share the same agent, and you're supposed to get the money for the agent automatically deducted from your salary every year, direct deposit. You're not even supposed to see it. You're supposed to sort of automatically go to them. And they, for some reason, didn't do the paperwork to get that done for them. So I owed our agent a lot of money at one point. And Jalen goes, "Oh, no, you don't pay it all at once. You can do a payment plan there." I'm like, I got it. I owe it to him. Why don't I just pay him all at once? Like, I got the money. Like, I'm going to write him a check. No longer part of my problem. And what did you say to me?
Not going to be able to do it. They're a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate. You play that thing in installments, dog.
I didn't understand it.
That
might be cultural. That might be cultural. Because I was just like, yo, I'm just going to get it done. I don't like owing people money. You know what I mean? I'm Targaryen like that.
No, that's
pay my debts.
responsible.
I don't like owing people money. But you're like, no.
And look at a situation like right now, the pandemic that we're dealing with, the situation that we're dealing with right now. Don't be paying that full. You better pay some installments. You better call anybody out there paying rent. You better talk to the landlord. You better let them know that they understand what's happening. Get with your neighbors in your building and let the landlord know, like, we gonna need some relief. That's the time that we're in. So I didn't want you to have to write that big check Just like Rich Paul wouldn't want these guys to have to write that big check because that bread look a lot different. A guy like LeBron James, so let's do some math.
Okay.
LeBron James makes about $30 million this year.
75% of 30 million is going to be 75 times 3, which is going to get you to 225. So it's about 22 million he's going to make. So about 7 point. But he got to pay back probably 8 or 9 mil. No, because it's only 90%. So 15% of 30. That's going to get you. Oh, this is tough. I'm going to say 7, 8 mil.
Ooh.
Yeah. It's about 7. It's 10% of 35. Yeah, it's going to get you.
I got to tell you, I got to bring you guys behind the curtain on something about rich people. And I felt like this being from the hood. I used to feel like because I'm from the hood that I'm going to grind harder than people that got bread. And that's true in a lot of cases. But sometimes it ain't true. And one time we were playing Reston, Virginia, 13 and under, AAU Nationals in St. Louis. And we had just got our Patrick Ewing Adidas. And we had a couple of guys on the squad whose parents had good jobs that helped pay for the inner city kids to travel. And our parents couldn't travel. And we ran into a gym after hanging out all night in Seattle. Hanging out all night in St. Louis, just walking around the dusty trail, just not doing nothing. And all of a sudden, we ran into this team called Reston, Virginia. And we was like, they got uniforms. They got warm-ups. They got their matching shoes. They got families in the stands. Like, we about to crush them. You know, one of the players on that team, his name was Grant Hill. And they beat the brakes off of us. We couldn't even get the ball across half court, it seems like.
I love that. Jay,
and so, like, this is a time right now where everything is discounted, dog. Everything is discounted. And I ain't want you to write that big check to CAA because they got it.
Jay, let me show you something. You mean knees?
Ooh!
You mean knees?
Ooh!
You mean knees? You mean knees?
Actually, you know what? I had the gray with black. But yeah, that's hair.
Ooh. I like that.
We was out there trying to be cool. Let me tell you something funny. I'm not proud of this. It's true.
Oh, no.
I actually got mad during the game. I just not remember this. I got upset during the game because somebody stepped on my shoes. Somebody stepped on my kicks, dog.
Yo, I think you were a punk. Jay, I think you were a punk. I'm just going to say it. I think you were for real. You're so mature now. You're such an adult now. Look at you. Just staying in the house, cooking, cleaning. You're the best. So we always talk about how and why and when and in what format the NBA will come back. And one of the things that we've been sort of pushing is the NBA sort of drags the schedule. You know, because those summer months, July and August, you're not really stepping on any leagues or any major sports events' toes. I understand the Olympics come around and there's major international soccer tournaments, but those are open months and maybe you can shift the schedule a little bit. Well, we love that idea. Someone who doesn't love that idea is a gentleman by the name of Dame Lillard. Here's what Dame had to say about that potential. He said the following, and I quote, he said, "Our break is into the summer, and then you get to come back as summer is leaving. I think that's been perfect." And then he went on to say, "It's been perfect for us. So for that to change and for things to be pushed back, I'm definitely not a fan of that. I don't see many guys being a fan of that." Jalen, what do you think about Dame Lillard being like, "Nah, I want my summers. I need my summers"?
Dame Dollar, I can't wait to get the latest freestyle during the quarantine. You got to get your D Nice on. You got to get your Swiss Beats on. We need to be seeing some Dame Dollar bars. I got to hit him up about this because I agree with him. He's exactly right. You know what we all want? To get paid top dollar by our jobs, but yet have the convenience of our families. Mm-hmm. We all want that. So if I'm a player, of course I feel that way. Because guess what? When I'm off in the summer, my kids are off in the summer, we get to spend that quality time in June, July, and parts of August, depending on where they live. But if the NBA extends the season, it's going to take that away. Now, it's not, again, better for the players, but it is better for the business, Jacoby. is definitely better for the business. Because those same kids that aren't in school, guess what they can now become? NBA basketball fans. Their parents can take them to the games. They can watch it on television. It creates more commerce in the game versus the system the way it is now. So, of course, if you players and coaches, you want to have your summers off. We all want the convenience of
course.
And before all of us get our jobs, you know what we say? We'll be the first one there. We'll be the last one to leave. We'll never complain. We're going to work as hard as possible. And then you work a week, you're complaining about your job.
Oh, cool. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. About 6 months in, 6 months in, it's over. That's basically our relationship is just complaining about each other and our job. That's basically that and talking about sports is just all that we do when we hang out. Moving on quickly, you know that the Michael Jordan documentary, The Last Dance, is going to air on April 19th, just mere couple weeks away, and we couldn't be more excited about it. You'll be hearing a lot about that from us. So what we decided to do, we're going to do a daily countdown. It is Jalen Jacoby's Last Dance Countdown. Because you and I are so excited about this upcoming documentary that every single day we're going to drop a little MJ knowledge or ask Jalen a little MJ question. Now, one of my favorite stories of yours is when you were in a playoff series against those Chicago Bulls, and they had number 23. And you had my favorite basketball player of all time, Larry Joe Bird, as your head coach. And what did he say to you before the game, and what was your approach in that series?
So I want all of the fans and followers and supporters of our program to know this. You're able to get the Jordan exclusive information between now and April 19th on this program. Jason Ayer, the executive producer, is a very close friend of ours. He also executive produced the Fab Five doc. So we're going to be your source to give the people what they want as it leads to the series airing on ESPN. Larry Joe Bird looks at Jalen Rose, and he like, your role right now is to go guard number 23. And I was like, oh, okay, that's a huge responsibility. You know what I'm saying? First off, like serious? Like, are you trusting me with that? That's awesome. Okay. But then I didn't read the fine print. And that was, if he score on you twice, then I'm taking you out. Like straight up. If he score on you twice. Now just think about it. When you talk about greatest players and scorers of all time in the NBA, what do you rank?
You're number 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Right. So your coach tells you now, because this is my role. See, people see me later in my career when I was basically washed and playing against Kobe. And by the way, he's top 10 all time as well. In this series, that was my role. I actually played good defense on Michael Jordan. Because I knew in my head, if he scored on me twice in a row, I was out the game. That was the rule.
Hold up. I have a follow-up question. What I would have said to Larry Joe Bird, were I in your position, I'd be like, does it count if I foul him? Is that the role? Does that count? Does that count if I foul him? Does that count? I don't think that counts, Coach. I don't think that counts.
I'm glad you went there, sir. You ready for this? That documentary is about 1998. And I guarantee you, in a lot of those games, I had a lot more fouls than points. That's exactly what I was doing, Jacoby.
No, but I can't ask enough follow-up questions about this one. So what I'm saying is, after you had that conversation with my basketball idol, Larry Joe Bird, and you're like, all right, I'm a guard number 23. When you have a moment to yourself, like before the game, before you're in the tunnel or you're in the locker room, you're tying your shoes, whatever it is you're doing, when you have a moment to yourself, what is that inner dialogue? What are you saying to yourself when you know that's your mission for the evening?
Oh, I'm about to dominate MJ and make a name for myself. That's exactly what I'm thinking. I've been in the league like 3 or 4 years. I'm like, Scotty can't guard me. Can't nobody guard me. I'm unstoppable. That's
hold him to under 10, put up 30. No problem. Light work. Light work. Oh, man. I love your irrational confidence so much. It really makes you who you are. It really makes you who you are. Because I'm the least confident basketball player on the planet. I think that's why we make a good duo. I missed my first shot. Like, I ain't shooting again. So, that is something to look forward to because obviously sports fans are, it's just, we miss the games. I miss watching the games. I miss my West Coast games keeping me up late. I miss all the action. We've been getting into the playoffs and playoff positioning right now. And one thing that the NBA has done to kind of just alleviate that the way that they can, they set up a 2K tournament with 16 players, which I found really interesting. As you can see here, those are the players. You got Derrick Jones and Harrison Barnes, Kevin Durant, who seemed instrumental in putting this together, Trae Young, Hassan Whiteside, many other notable NBA players. So that will air next weekend on ESPN. And again, we work for ESPN, we work for Disney, but we can objectively sort of evaluate programming. And you're going to tune into this one.
I'm going to tune in because I'm thirsty for hoops and for any type of competitive spirit in sports. But I looked at that list, and the first thing I thought about is, how did they randomly come up with those 16 players? The second thing I thought about is the only perennial all-star on there is KD. And then thirdly, he's clearly going to win in a landslide.
Oh, Jalen, you know what? You always do a segment on this program called when you take us behind the curtain on how locker rooms work and how athletes work in the NBA. You know what? Let me, as a 2-decade producer of sports television, take you behind the curtain real quick on this one. So, KD's the biggest name, huh? Oh, that's interesting. Well, I saw some tweets yesterday that were promoting this project from, 35 Ventures, a friend of the show, Rich Kleinman. And then you know that KD has a relationship through 35 Ventures, 35 Films, whatever it's called. Sorry, shout out to them. And a relationship with ESPN through the boardroom. And the boardroom tweeted about this. So what this basically is KD gets on the horn with Rich gets on the horn with people at ESPN, and then KD says, you know what, let me see who's in my phone who will do whatever I say, and not ask for anybody that I know plays 2K. That's how that collection of players comes together. Now, do I know any of this is fact? Absolutely not. Do I have any inside information about this? Absolutely not. But do I know the game? Absolutely. And do I think that's how this went down? Yes. That's my thoughts on that one. And now it is time for Soft Move or Boss Move. All right, Jalen. Well, we're all thirsty for live sports. And one of the leagues that just really wants to give us live sporting events, like one of the leagues that's just like whatever it takes, no matter how bad this gets, we're going to put 2 people in the octagon and fight, is the UFC. And you know what, as much as this virus is extremely serious and affects everyday lives and many, many thousands of people will eventually perish because of the coronavirus, it is that serious. I do respect the fact that Dana White is like, listen, we're going to put on a show. We can do it safely. We can put in safety measures and still put on events. And, you know, UFC fighters are staying ready. So a gentleman by the name of Conor McGregor, he's just in the gym. He's sparring. But the internet pointed out that during this footage that you will see right here, you know, he's just kind of messing around, having some fun. I could never do any of this, but, you know, he's hitting a tiny little pole. It's swinging back around at him. But notice his left hand, Jalen Rose.
Okay.
His left wrist. That is a $50,000 watch.
Look at the flick of the wrist.
Soft move or boss move, wearing a $50,000 watch while working out?
Atomic boss move. Remember, I played in the bling bling era, dog. Everything was oversized and everything was extra. Could just have one chain. You had 5 chains. Mobb Deep had it hanging down to their waist. Rest in peace, Prodigy. It just how things work. So for Conor McGregor, he's self-made. He pulled himself up by his bootstraps and became a great fighter and a great showman. He wasn't doing nothing really as it relates to combat. That's just light work. And the watch is insured. You know what I'm saying? So you can throw a couple of shots and wear your $50,000 watch. Ain't no big deal. It's nothing.
I think it's a boss move too. Like, I usually like to go the other way with you on these ones, but you know, he's just playing around, and it's also like an if you know kind of situation. I saw that video when it came out, and I didn't look at his watch. I'm not in the watch game. I don't wear a $50,000 watch. I don't think I own anything that's worth 10% $50,000, to be honest with you. But I will say that it's a boss move working out in a $50,000 watch. Now, Jalen, we've been doing this for a long time, and we get in each other's nerves a little bit. And one thing that you always get on my nerves about is anytime you mention the Cowboys, you say the same old thing. No matter what we're talking about. We could be talking about one specific play in a meaningless regular season game, or we could be talking about the dynasty and the legacy or the importance of that franchise. We could be talking about Troy Aikman doing games or Tony Romo's contract, or we could be talking about, you know, whether or not they should have Dak come back or whether they paid Zeke too much. We talk about the Cowboys all the time because this is ESPN. But you always bring up one fact about this franchise. What is that?
The fact that my favorite collegiate football coach of all time, the great Hall of Fame, Jimmy Johnson. Shout to James Brown. My brother was one of my mentors in the game, multimedia.
What?
Here to hang out with the crew early
What's
2000s.
happening?
No doubt about it. And Jimmy Johnson isn't in the Dallas Cowboys Ring of Honor. Now,
see, this means a lot to you. This means so much to you. You will not stop talking about it. And it gets on my nerves, to be honest with you. However, it is actually in the news today. The fact that Jimmy Johnson is not in the Ring of Honor is actually in the news because someone asked him about what would he do if Jerry indicted him, and he said that he would have Troy Aikman present it and Terry Bradshaw put a jacket on him. Jalen, now that this is kind of bubbled up, just kind of bubbled up a little bit into the news cycle, do you think there's a chance that Jerry Jones actually does the right thing and puts him on the Ring of Honor?
Jerry, do the right thing. Do the right thing, yeah. He just bitter and salty that so many people acknowledge Jimmy Johnson for being the architect and the head coach, a la Bill Belichick, of those early Dallas championships in the 90s. So much so that those two gentlemen fell out. Barry Switzer coached the team, and once he won the Super Bowl, you couldn't tell Jerry Jones nothing after that. As a matter of fact, you still can't tell him nothing. And so based on that, he always held a grudge against Jimmy Johnson. You know one of the people that's in the Ring of Honor? Tony Romo. Tony Romo.
He belongs there.
Dallas Cowboy Ring of Honor.
He belongs there. He belongs there. You don't have to win a championship. Don't ring count. Don't do the thing
I agree.
you always hate. Don't ring count.
I agree.
He was their starting quarterback for a decade.
I agree.
Romo belongs there. Love Tony
I agree.
Love Tony
Patience should
Romo.
retire my number.
All right, Jalen. The NFL medical director said that they expect the NFL season to start on schedule. Now, you and I cannot sit in these chairs and act like we know as much or more about the coronavirus and the impact of that on the schedule. But one thing I do know is no one really does know. What do you think about the confidence of this medical director of the NFL?
I think that he's just being optimistic. We're going to get news in 3-2-1 from Woj that the NBA is going to move its draft because there's no way you can hold a draft before you finish the season. And for the NFL, while you don't have to move your draft, it's going to affect all of your off-season programming, and therefore it may delay their season some. So get ready for that announcement as well. The NFL season isn't going to start normally when it does. It's going to start a little bit later once we get past this pandemic.
Jalen, we always say at the beginning of every show, ever since the very first show, and I had no idea you were going to say it, that we give the people what they want. So, Jalen, it is now time for us to go to Twitter and Instagram.
Good.
And take their questions and give the people what they want. Everyone watching this, make sure that you follow Jalen Jacoby on Twitter and Jalen Jacoby on Instagram because every day one of our producers, Brianna, always puts up a question that we want you to answer, and we discuss our favorite answers here. The first one comes from Twitter. Comes from Angry Sports Fan. I think we're all kind of angry sports fan once in a while. And the question that Jalen asked yesterday was, if you are alone and single, how do you handle the quarantine? You seem very concerned. So his answer was, man, I'm in LA. This is even better. I'm in LA. True story. I'm in a Bonds grocery store. I think I ran into my potential wife. We both had a moment in the rice aisle because we both wanted brown rice. Bleep was gone. We sort of locked eyes, and 3 seconds later, I know I had the social distancing thought. So, Jalen, this is just us trying to give the people what they want. Give the angry sports fan what he wants. If you are that young lady that was in Bonds in the rice aisle, please reach out to @AngrySportsFan1 on Twitter because he really wants to talk to you about some brown rice.
So, again, we're here to entertain, and what I'm about to say is tongue-in-cheek.
Don't do it then.
I don't want people to feel like, I'm being insensitive.
Don't do it, Jay.
But I'm being serious.
You're probably being insensitive.
Dog, you should have hollered at her.
Yeah, you got to. See to holler from 6 feet away. That's not insensitive.
You got to holler at her. You got to get those digits.
Oh, that's good advice. Oh, yeah.
You can speak to where she can hear you. You don't have to be hugging her, holding her hand, or kissing her, but you got to get that number, dog. You got to ask that. You got to
All you
ask
gotta
that
say is
social
just like,
play.
yo, I
You gotta
don't
holler
like
at her,
purified
dog.
white rice. I like organic, good food for you and natural cooking, and brown rice is important for my diet. It seems like we're on the same page there. Maybe we're on the same page with some other things. Perhaps we should follow up. What's your
I
IG?
wasn't even starting on my own team and told myself I was going to dominate Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen when I got in the game. You have to find a way to holler at her.
Got to do it. That's on you, Angry Sports Fan. Next, I did this one just for you. We asked people again, if you're alone and single, how are you handling the quarantine? And you're going to love this one. This one comes from Kevin Hunt. Kevin once said, he's rewatching Power, obviously. That's what he's rewatching Power.
Down.
He's rewatching Power. I can't. You rewatch Power every week. You rewatch Power twice every week. You know,
No,
so
two or three times.
You're always. You've never started or stopped watching Power. You're always watching Power. Is that
always watching Power. Always watching The Wire. Certain things that's in my playlist.
And finally, we have one more. This one's from Instagram. Make sure you follow Jalen Jacoby on Twitter and Instagram, where you can find exclusive content. And this one's from Rob. Rob says, here's the single guy quarantine survival kit. Video games, multiple movie streaming services, good snacks, and, of course, plenty medicinal. Failed test. Jalen, what do you think about Rob's advice and how he's handling the quarantine?
That's terrific quarantine advice. No question about it. But you got to add one thing to this, Rob. You ready for this? You got to step your FaceTime game up. You know, all of those people that are in your phone, especially if you're attracted to them in one way, shape, or form, this is your chance to create a level of conversation with them. They're sitting still. Why don't you hit them up, dog? You ain't got to be alone. Get your
Jalen,
FaceTime game in order.
That's great advice. You will always find great advice here. Make sure you follow us on Instagram and Twitter. That's Jalen and Jacoby.
Follow me!
Where you can get exclusive content, and always check out Mina Kimes on the Daily Podcast. We'll be back tomorrow at 4:00 on Twitter and the app and many other places. Why is that, Jalen?
We're not done. We're not done. We're not done.